What's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I feel like we should kick off the day before I start to do some more deep dives into some notable undrafted free agents and these draft picks that I still haven't had the chance to break down for y'all yet. I feel like we kicked the day off with something fun, so let's do a whole look around basically the entire internet and what everybody's saying about the Washington Commanders draft. Apparently, the Washington Commanders had the most athletic NFL draft class on top of everything else out of everybody in the entire NFL in the 2024 NFL draft. We're going to take a look at those advanced stats and that breakdown towards like the end of the video, the last third of the video. And then also the Washington Commanders are seen as like A+ draft winners by most experts. We were the only A+ by Pete Prisco. We have the 4th highest draft GPA. We're going to take a look at that super breakdown and chart because somebody somehow put together like all of the draft grades out there, and then we walked away with the 4th highest GPA, like average grade out there. So, hey man, we're going to do a deep dive into that. I'm excited. Of course, I'm going to read like the quotes for a lot of these grades, and then even like in the middle third, the second third of this video, we're going to break down like how some people felt about some of our individual picks and why they were so high on some of those guys as well. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I really appreciate y'all, man. Y'all been going crazy, especially pulling up to the live streams. I really appreciate y'all pulling up to the live streams. Much love to y'all, man. Make sure you follow all of the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, because it's daily content coming to y'all everywhere. Your one-stop shop for everything Commanders. Again, I'm working backwards, so I still have a couple of more notable undrafted free agents that I want to talk about, and then we're moving straight into the draft. And I've already done Javonte Jean-Baptiste, so we're starting with Dominique Hampton, and we're working our way up to finish out the draft all the way up to Johnny Newton, because I already did Jayden Daniels. So make sure you stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get to this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's start it off with Chad Reuter from NFLcom. He gave us an A- overall. He said day 1 A, day 2 A, and then day 3 A. I don't exactly know how that averages out to an A-. I feel like if anything that's an A, but you know what, either way, I will take it. His analysis: the Commanders entered a new era with an excellent draft. Daniels could be an elite dual threat playmaker if he becomes more efficient from the pocket. Newton is a force in the front four. Sanders still is a pain for opposing receivers to handle. Sinnott is and just to let y'all know, I keep hearing people now pronounce it Ben Sinnott, not Sinnott. I've been calling it Sinnott for the past few months, talking about him. It's Sinnott, just to give y'all an update. So that's one name that I have down at least. I'm still not even all the way sure about Sanders still yet. But Sinnott is an underappreciated receiving blocking weapon. Coleman is a powerful guard tackle, and McCaffrey is a reliable wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 option. That's going to be weird just hearing people say McCaffrey by itself, isolated. You got to put that Luke in front of it, man. You're going to give people heart attacks out here, man. Washington did not have a 4th round pick after moving up to the 3rd in the Sam Howell trade with Seattle. It found a future starting linebacker in McGee, whose explosiveness was underappreciated while he was playing at Temple. Hampton possesses a nice combination of size and quickness, and it won't be surprising if he plays as a rookie. So there you go, Chad Reuter, very high on our draft. Then you have NextGen Stats, and here's this chart right here for you to look at while I'm talking about it. So NextGen Stats tweeted, which team had the best all-around draft by the NextGen Stats overall draft score? The Commanders drafted a league-high 6 players who earned a 75+ overall draft score. So NextGen Stats feel like we had the best draft out of the entire NFL just based off of the guys that we got, the value where we got them, all of those different type of calculations. Because NextGen Stats isn't just talking about the players themselves in a vacuum. They're talking about where you got those players. How much do they fit what you need in your organization, their potential, all of those things like that. NextGen Stats puts in a lot of calculations into this situation. So I'm telling you, believe them when they say that we had at the very least one of the best draft classes. Even if you don't feel like we necessarily had the best, trust NextGen Stats on this one. Then Pro Football Focus handed out only 6 A grades, and we were one of them, along with the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions, Los Angeles Chargers, New York Jets, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We were the only 6 teams that Pro Football Focus felt like deserved an A grade for their entire draft. No other NFC East team in there, just to be petty, just to throw that out there, no other NFC East team included in that category. But also moving on, Fox Sports gave us a B+, a humble B+, you know what I'm saying? That's going to be one of the lowest grades we see all video, just to go ahead and give you a heads up. A very humble B+. They said rule number 1 of drafting a franchise quarterback, surround them with help. But that's not really what the Commanders did after drafting LSU quarterback Jayden Daniels 2nd overall. They turned to their defense, where they did get great second-round value in Illinois defensive tackle Jerzon Newton and Michigan cornerback Mike Sanderstill. Both could be big-time players. The same goes for second-round tight end Ben Sinnott. All of their top picks were excellent, but their O-line is still a glaring issue, and they didn't address that until round 3 with TCU guard. They call him a guard, but just to remind y'all, he played tackle the majority of his collegiate career. So just to give you that heads up, and Adam Peters already said himself he believes that he's a tackle. We'll get to that one day, because I'm going to eventually do a breakdown on a lot of the behind-the-scenes information that we've gotten on the draft as well. But they continue on to say that could turn out to be a regrettable decision, and this is coming from Ralph Vacciano. So he's still even feeling like we didn't do enough to build around Jayden Daniels himself, felt like we deserved a B+. And basically he's saying, like, if we were able to somehow secure one of the top tackles in the draft, somehow in this draft class, it probably would have been an easy A+ for him. Moving on to Bleacher Report, they gave us a B+ as well, and the similar reasoning. Everything will come down to Daniels for Washington. If he proves worthy of the number 2 pick, no one will remember the rest of the class. If he struggles, it'd be fair to wonder if Washington could have done more to support him. I'm pretty sure they're mostly talking about the offensive line. So even with that critique from both Fox and Bleacher Report, they still give us B+. They feel like literally if we just somehow came away with one of the top tackles, we were probably an easy A+ for them. Then Scout D NFL, this is like a pure draft guy. That's all he does on Twitter and everything like that. Shouts out to him. He said he graded based on haul relative to capital, fits, needs, and talent. And he gave us and the Eagles both A-, the Giants a B+, and the Cowboys a B-. So out of the NFC East, he gave us the highest grades between the Eagles and the Cowboys. And if you're looking around the entire NFL, the Colts got an A, the Steelers got an A, the Chiefs and the Chargers got an A, and the Patriots got an A. I don't think anybody in the entire NFC got an A. So we, between us and the Eagles, were 2 of the highest graded teams out of the entire NFC, according to Scout D NFL. Also moving on, Benjamin Albright had a really interesting tweet. And he said, I don't care about the value or whatever else. Throw all of that out of the window, basically. My 3 favorite drafts from other teams were Miami, Washington, and Arizona. Stop playing with us, man. Brian Baldinger also saw in a video clip that I saw that he loved our entire offseason. Like, I mean, you can add the draft in there as well, but he's talking about both free agency and the draft with how Adam Peters is starting his run as the Commanders general manager, hopefully forever, man. And in a lot of words, basically, he also said that he loves Jayden Daniels a lot for Cliff Kingsbury's system. He said it in a way longer, wordy way. I'm just giving you the quick synopsis real quick. And he also said that Jayden Daniels is a higher ceiling Kyler Murray. Go check out the video if you want to. And he also said that the Commanders could have a quick rise and be very competitive quicker than what people think, especially because of Jayden Daniels. And then Around the NFL not only named us one of the winners of the draft on their podcast, but they were so excited to talk about us that they wanted to talk about us first because they felt like we really killed it with the draft, especially with Johnny Newton and Mike Sanderstill. Those are the guys that all of the people in that podcast seem to talk about the most. They also said that they love how different things are under Adam Peters. They said other than question marks with offensive line and Cliff Kingsbury, they love what we're building here, and they can see us being a great team in the near future and for a very long time. Then going back to NextGen Stats, here's this chart right here. And with this chart, they tweeted, which NFL team targeted college production with their selections in the 2024 NFL Draft? The Commanders, Broncos, Eagles, Bills, and Raiders' first 7 picks all averaged at least a 72 NextGen Stats score. So we're right back to NextGen Stats once again with that one. And now to Pete Prisco of CBS. And just to let you know, we were the only ones to receive an A+ out of his entire draft class breakdown for the entire NFL, man. And matter of fact, while I'm talking about it, here's this visual right here so you can get a good idea of how he feels about the draft classes in general around the NFL. So going to his analysis, first of all, again, A+, he said best pick. It was their first one. Quarterback, Jayden Daniels. I think he will be the best quarterback from this draft. Okay. He's not the first person I've seen say that. I've actually seen double-digit experts, kind of alluding to that, even if they don't say it directly like Pete Prisco just straight up said. They locked up a franchise passer with the number 2 overall pick. He will be dynamic. Then he said our worst pick. I didn't love the pick of 3rd-round receiver Luke McCaffrey, although he has talent and is improving. I think there were better options on the board like Troy Franklin when the pick was made. And then he said the skinny. In his first year running the draft, general manager Adam Peters killed it. It started by taking Daniels with the 2nd overall pick, but continued throughout the process. This is a team moving in the right direction. I liked all of their 2nd-round picks in defensive tackle Johnny Newton, cornerback Mike Sanverstill, and tight end Ben Sinnott. They drafted a lot of talented football players. Again, just to reiterate, you can see it on the screen right now, but we were Pete Prisco's of CBS Sports, only A+ out of the entire NFL. Then you got Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and he's the guy that does breakdowns of college players all the way down to like the 400s. He has something to say about everybody. Like when in doubt, any of our even undrafted free agents that I don't even know about, Dane Brugler at least has like a quick 2-3 sentences to say about him. So this guy really watches tape, really does this draft stuff seriously. He gave us the 9th best draft class out of the entire NFL. He said his favorite pick, Mike Sanverstill, cornerback from Michigan. He said, I think Jayden Daniels will quickly become a dynamic NFL player, but my favorite pick by the Washington Commanders were their 2 next selections, Sanverstill and defensive tackle Johnny Newton. Despite being undersized, Sanverstill is a smart player. It is no coincidence that he consistently delivered difference-making plays on tape. Another favorite from this class was offensive tackle Brandon Coleman. I was ready to defend his high ranking number 66 on my board, but the Washington Commanders drafted him at 67, and I don't think they'll regret it. So he's a big fan of Brandon Coleman. I feel like a lot of people honestly feel like between Luke McCaffrey or Brandon Coleman, those are at least good picks. I don't feel like anybody really necessarily feels like we just have terrible picks, because again, we have B+ at worst, A- A's, and even A+ across draft grading boards around the internet and things like that. But I consistently hear and see that like Brandon Coleman is the reason that the grade isn't any higher. You have Luke McCaffrey sometimes as the reason that our grade isn't even higher than it already is. But this guy, Dane Brugler, who again watches as much tape as anybody out there, again, he like has explanations even for random undrafted free agents that I didn't even know about until we signed them. I love the draft, but this guy, this is all he does. I don't even think he has like an NFL team he watches. He's too busy watching college tape even when we're in the regular season. So shouts out to him. And he loves Brandon Coleman and had Brandon Coleman as the 66th player on his big board. So we got like a slight steal, in his opinion, getting him at 67. And then day 3 pick, who could surprise? He said Dominique Hampton, safety from Washington. Dan Quinn has a history of tapping into the strengths of oversized safeties. That's a great point. I completely agree. That's, if anything, Dan Quinn gonna get some greatness out of an oversized safety. And Hampton could be next. At 6'2", 215 pounds, Hampton is a premier athlete, 4.5 second 40-yard dash with a versatile background as a cornerback, nickel, and on special teams. His lack of difference making plays stands out, but he can be a solid role player. Hey man, that's a great point right there. I completely agree. Then Matt Verderame. I hope that's how you pronounce his last name. I have no idea. I gave you like 3-4 attempts. Hopefully one of them sticks. Either way, this is a guy from Sports Illustrated. He gave us an A+ grade. Now I feel like I need to put more respect on his last name since he gave us an A+ grade. Maybe I need to rehearse that off the love, or just off the strength. His analysis, this was a straight up masterclass. The Commanders got the best quarterback in the draft, as I see it at least. There goes another person saying it. It's not just one or two guys. It's not just a handful. It's double-digit people. And then hammered the top 100 pick. Because again, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, I can go on and on about how many people feel like Jayden Daniels was the best quarterback in the draft. Not even just between Drake May and Jayden Daniels, but the best quarterback, including Caleb Williams. Continuing on, and then hammered the top 100, skewing the relatively worthless picks that will be coming in round 4s through 7. So he didn't like our rounds 4 through 7 picks, but he loved our days 1 and 2 picks so much that he still gave us an A+. This is one of the few drafts that I thought elevated a team from its pre-draft status into something promising. Could Washington be this year's Texans? I'm not ruling it out, and you shouldn't either. I keep telling y'all, I've never guaranteed that we're going to be the Texans, but I'm just saying there's hopes, there's signs, there's clues that we can do what the Texans did last year, how they went from 2nd overall pick to winning a division and also winning a playoff game, and then the following next season trading for a big-time receiver like Stephon Diggs. Maybe that can be a signing Brandon Ayuk. I keep laying out the plan, man. I'm telling you, we have the building blocks. Again, I've never guaranteed it. I wouldn't even put any money on it, but I'm telling you, if anybody has a chance to do what the Texans did most recently, it's us. And Matt from Sports Illustrated seems to agree there. Then you have Rob Maddie of AP News. He gave us an A. He said, got their franchise quarterback in Jayden Daniels and kept on adding. Defensive tackle Johnny Newton is a first-round player. Day 2 picks, cornerback Mike Sanverstill, tight end Ben Sinnott, and Brandon Coleman, and wide receiver Luke McCaffrey are also building blocks. So there you go right there. Then you also have Nate Davis of USA Today. He gave us an A-. How could he? How could he be so low on this Commanders draft class? Like, what's the nerve of this guy? Wise guy, huh? Now, analysis. Number 2 overall pick, Jayden Daniels from LSU, could be the galvanizing, long-sought franchise quarterback after the previous regime spent years kicking that can down the road. 2nd round defensive tackle Johnny Newton and defensive back Mike Sanverstill could be foundational players for the incoming staff. Though Newton's arrival seems to signal Jonathan Allen Daron Payne could be a short timer, and it's worth wondering if the former decision makers did the current ones a disservice by dealing Sweat as a pass rush is still an issue. 3rd round wide receiver Luke McCaffrey certainly has the bloodlines and maybe the talent to be an impact target for Daniels from the slot. So again, Nate Davis gave us an A-. How dare he? The Ringer, we're right back up to A. Gave us an A grade, straight up A flat. And then he said the Commanders pushed all their chips to the center of the proverbial draft table to take Heisman winner Jayden Daniels, an electric dual threat quarterback who could quickly emerge as one of the most exciting young players in the game. Washington turned around in the 2nd round and grabbed one of my favorite interior defenders in this class, the explosive and unstoppable Johnny Newton. The former Illinois star adds playmaking depth to the team's already stacked interior rotation. The team could also added dynamic nickel corner Mike Sanverstill in the 2nd, a raw but instinctive cover man who can start right away in Washington's secondary, day 1. Tight end Ben Sinnott is another one to watch in this haul. The former Kansas State tight end brings high-end athleticism and elusiveness to the Commanders' offense, giving Daniels another target over the middle of the field. This class should provide an immediate boost for the Commanders. So we should basically be competitive immediately. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to win the division. I'm not saying that we're even going to make the playoffs, but we're going to be way better than that 4-win team last year, and we're going to be a team that people are afraid to play no matter how good they are. I can tell you that. That's just Rico speaking right now. Then Sharp Football Analysis gave us an A as well. He said the Commanders crushed the draft. First with Jayden Daniels, and then landing 3 starters in the 2nd round of Johnny Newton, Mike Sanverstill, and Ben Sinnott. 3rd round pick Brandon Coleman felt like a reach, and he may need to move the guard, but that's the only nitpicky criticism I have of this entire class. Then New York Post gave us an A, and this coming from New York, you know what I'm saying? Giants and Jets territory, even though they technically play in the Jets, but you know, that's something I'm always going to bring up when I'm making fun of Giants and Jets fans. But the Commanders choose the Heisman winning Daniels over Drake May at number 2 overall. A failed effort to trade up for a first rounder worked out because Newton is a first round talent, and Sanverstill and Sinnott were 2 of many analysts' favorite players. Shouts out to New York Post for realizing that, man, we tried. And even though they weren't able to trade up for a tackle, they made the absolute most out of it. Gave us an A for that. Then Barstool Sports gave us an A as well. They said Jayden Daniels at number 2 is your franchise guy. Gotta love that pairing with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury. Illinois defensive tackle Johnny Newton at 36 is great value as a guy who could have gone in the 20s. completely agree. I love Michigan cornerback Mike Sanders still at 50. That guy is just a winner, and with Daniels and others should help turn around the culture in Washington immediately. Then Mel Kiper gave us an A-. How dare he? He said our top needs entering the draft: quarterback, offensive line, and cornerback. He said the Commanders have undergone a total reset of their franchise over the past year with the new owner, general manager, and coach Dan Quinn. Yeah, remember, Josh Harris bought the team in like July. He still hasn't been our owner for an entire year yet. I want people to really, really remember that. I know everybody else got here later than him, but it still hasn't even been a full 365 days for him yet. It's only been about like 10 months for the guy, actually 9. So just remember that. Peters, who had been in the 49ers front office since 2017, had some capital to work with in this draft with 6 picks on the first 2 days. He has an entire essay on us, man. But I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the conclusion real quick because we'll be here all day if we read everybody's entire breakdowns. He said, I really like this class overall, and whether it goes from great to amazing could hinge on Coleman becoming a starter, basically. If he does and Daniels is a star, this could set the foundation for the Commanders returning to the playoffs in a couple of years. So basically, from what I read, from what I surmised just from that quick conclusion, basically his only question is Brandon Coleman. Everybody else he loved. Again, he gave us an A-. And then the score gave us an A-. They said Daniels wasn't our number 2 quarterback in the class, but it's tough to argue with the Commanders taking a swing on his big play upside and Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Newton, our top-ranked interior lineman, was a steal early in the second round. San Francisco's athleticism, physicality, and playmaking traits are bound to make him a fan favorite in the secondary. Washington should have probably been more aggressive in upgrading the offensive line, but getting Coleman at the top of the 3rd round made for some sneaky good value to end that round. Overall, this is a strong start for Washington's rebuilding process. Again, they gave us an A-. Then the Athletic said, well, they didn't even have grades. They just gave winners and losers. They said winners, of course. I mean, I'm saying the lowest grade we're going to talk about today is a B+. That should tell you everything you need to know. They said the moment certainly didn't appear too big for Commanders rookie general manager Adam Peters. Not only did he select Jayden Daniels as the team franchise quarterback, but he also added playmakers on offense and defense. Peters used his 8 picks after Daniels to plug holes along the defensive front in the secondary, at tight end, and on the interior of the offensive line. Then, now we're on to the really interesting chart, because Renee Brugler, I believe that's how you pronounce that, Brugler, he tweeted, I've compiled 20 evaluations of the 2024 NFL Draft and totaled the team grades. Here's the spreadsheet, sorted by GPA for all 32 teams. I also sorted the 20 evaluations by GPA from left, soft graders, to right, hard graders. Thanks to all who give out their grades every year. So now if you want to see it in a chart, some of the people we've talked about already and included in this chart, but there are also a lot of people that I have not included so far breaking down in this video that, you know, looking around the internet to see what grades we got that are included in this chart. So here's the chart right here for you to look at. And so when you're looking at this chart, you do notice that they have the Pittsburgh Steelers as having the best draft, and I can't argue against that. I mean, they took Troy Fautanu, who I really wanted. Both of the Wilsons I really wanted, and Roman Wilson. And again, Peyton Wilson was my favorite linebacker out of the entire class. It was Peyton Wilson 1, Junior Colson 2, and then Gap, and then Edgerrin Cooper, and then Gap, and then everybody else for me personally. And so the Pittsburgh Steelers, I hate them for that draft class. I have a Steelers fan friend, so I am sick to my stomach. Speaking of friends, I got a Chicago Bears friend, and they have the second pick according to this GPA grading system. Then you have the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, we hate them as rivals, as division rivals. I don't know any Eagles fans in person, in real life. I barely even know that many Cowboys fans either, and even the ones I know aren't, you know, like super duper annoying, like which I'll probably deal with in the DMV, or if you're actually in Dallas country in Texas. I don't really have to deal with them. I really only hate them because of history. I don't have anybody personally that I go back and forth with as a Cowboys fan. But either way, man, I'm going on a random tangent that has nothing to do with nothing, but I am pretty much stalling, just give y'all more time to watch this. But then again, y'all could just pause it, so I'm tripping. Either way, the Washington Commanders are 4th in average GPA with a 3.72, man. I mean, hey, that's honor roll right there. You know what I'm saying? You see, we're in that blue category. We're towards the top of that blue category. They feel like we had the overall, if you're just looking at all of these different grading systems, everybody basically felt like, I see at worst our grade was from the Washington Post themselves, just hating on their own team with a B-. Everybody else was at least a B or a higher. You only have 2 Bs in Charles McDonald of Yahoo Sports and Thomas whatever. It's so small to see, man. Thomas Sire. Oh, I don't even know why I zoomed in. I can't pronounce that last name anyway. Oh Lord. From Sideline Reporter, he gave us a B, or I guess that's his title. Or is that literally the name of his? I don't know, man. I'm just going on all kinds of tangents. Then you have a couple of B pluses sprinkled all over the place, but everybody else is basically more than half of our grades, is my point, is that are at least an A minus. More than half. Again, everybody feels like overall, when you're looking around the internet, we ended up having the 4th best draft out of the entire NFL. When you're looking at the rest of the NFC East, hey, man, that's what they get. Giants 14th and Cowboys 26th. And then you know the team I hate the most out of any team in the NFL, the Falcons, dead last at 32. I am in absolute love with the grades that I'm seeing right now. Falcons at the bottom, Commanders 4th from the top. Literally best case scenario for me. And then an extra sprinkle is the Cowboys being 26. But again, y'all know I'm Employee of the Month Falcons hater. So to see them dead last, even getting the only D minus out of anybody, they're the only one with a single D minus. And shouts out to Charles McDonald from Yahoo Sports. Again, as the guy that put this together noted, the easier grade is the guys that give out the highest grades are to the left, and then it goes in order of all the way up to the hardest graders all the way to the right. So our harshest grader still gave us a B. I'll take it, man. And so moving on. Now, granted, he may not be a football guy, but it still makes me happy to see Magic Johnson tweet. He said he had multiple tweets too, but I feel like this one was the most significant. He said GM Adam Peters, Coach Dan Quinn, and the entire Commander staff had an outstanding 3 days of the draft picks. I'm excited about the players joining us in the future of this franchise, man. Salute to Magic Johnson. Now let's get to some notable individual player love that we have from grades and breakdowns. Pro Football Focus isolated Jerzon Newton. They didn't even do grades for individual players. They just said, are they good? Was this pick elite? Was this pick good? Was this pick average? Or was it just bad or whatever like that? I don't even know what the other grades really look like because we were just getting a bunch of great grades. They said for Jerzon Newton, the pick grade elite. Stop playing. Come on now. We know that. I'm not going to sit here and read that description because we'll be here all day. And then the same thing with Mike Sanders, still 50th overall. The defensive back that we got from Michigan, they gave that grade an elite as well. Just a quick breakdown because this one's a little bit shorter than Johnny Newton. They said the Commanders continue to draft good football players. Sanders still brings a fierce mentality to the team and provides positional versatility. He secured a career best 6 interceptions in 2023, second amongst all cornerbacks, and his 90.3 Pro Football Focus grade since 2022 ranked 4th amongst Big Ten cornerbacks. Sanders still has a great reaction speed and is fearless in run defense. Then you go to CBS Sports. They gave the Johnny Newton pick an A+ grade. They gave Ben Sinnott an A+ grade for that pick. And then they gave Jordan McGee an A-. Yes, sir. Then they gave Javonte Jean-Baptiste, last pick of the draft for the Washington Commanders, 222nd overall, an A-. And then they gave Mike Sanders still a B+. So, hey, man, really interesting right there. Then you go to Yahoo Sports. They gave Jerzon Newton an A. And then they also gave Mike Sanders still an A as well. Then you go to Sporting News. They gave Jayden Daniels an A. They said the Commanders made the right choice over Drake May, given Daniels can be like Lamar Jackson with his running ability and big play passing. That lines up well with new offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, who made the most out of Kyler Murray in Arizona early. Daniels has a high athletic ceiling as a fellow Heisman winner to Williams. So they like the fact that we picked Jayden Daniels over Drake May and gave us an A because of it. Speaking of liking Jayden Daniels over Drake May, Walter Football gave us an A for taking Jayden Daniels and gave the Patriots right behind us an A- for taking Drake May. He also felt like Jayden Daniels was the smart pick over Drake May. There you go. Then we're just going to stick to Jayden Daniels real quick. Bill Belichick said about him, quote, great leader, teammates really play for him, unquote. But on top of that, he also said that Jayden Daniels was the number 2 player out of his entire draft board. Not just quarterback 2, but player 2 in total, in general, regardless of position, just to let you know that. Now moving on, Sporting News gave the pick of Johnny Newton an A grade. Let's go back to Sporting News because, again, they gave Jayden Daniels an A. Now we're circling back after talking about Jayden Daniels for a little bit. Johnny Newton was an A as well. And then Mike Sanders still was also an A for that pick. So Sporting News absolutely loves our our first 3 picks, all of them. And then now moving on to the athleticism part of this video, the final third of this video. Before we signed some aliens as undrafted free agents, because we signed a bunch of aliens as undrafted free agents, and you know, my boy Tyler Owens probably leading the pack. I mean, I feel like he's one of the most athletic players to ever even enter the NFL already. We just got to see about that floor. He's extremely raw. Like I keep saying, he's literally unplayable right now with how raw he is. But when we're talking about ceiling and athleticism, there's really no other match with him. I mean, the only other person even close to his stratosphere is probably Jeremy Chin, and somehow the NFL let us end up with both of them. But either way, even before we signed the freak of all freaks as an undrafted free agent, Lee Platt, aka @MathBomb, the guy that literally does the relative athletic score stuff, the guy that literally invented it. This is his thing. He ranked the most athletic drafts out of the entire NFL. We walked away #1, averaging a relative athletic score of 9.427. Second place were the Eagles with a 9.312. Then it was the Steelers with a 9.15. Then the Chiefs with a 9.066. I hope you notice a pattern there. A lot of the teams with the best drafts also have the most athletic drafts, and we have the most athletic draft out of the entire NFL. Again, according to the guy that literally does this stuff. He said Washington had 2 players who didn't test. That's the only problem. Jayden Daniels and Johnny Newton weren't able to test, but if they did, they probably would have he even said it, and if they had, they likely would have had an even higher average or relative athletic score. So even though we already have the highest one, if Jayden Daniels and Johnny Newton would have given us any tested, we probably would have been the highest by far. It wouldn't even been close at that point, is what he's saying. Second round, so that's just based off of knowing how Jayden Daniels and Johnny Newton move on tape and things like that. Again, that's coming from the relative athletic score guy himself. He said second rounder Mike Sanders still had the worst raw athletic score, relative athletic score at an 8.45, which says a lot about their approach this year. And I want to point out the fact that if Sanders still, if he wasn't just 5'9", he would have easily have been a 9-point-something relative athletic score. The only reason he's an 8-point-anything is because he's 5'9". If he were 3 inches taller, not only would he have been a 9-point-something relative athletic score, but he also would have been a top 20 pick. So actually, we're lucky. We are super lucky that he actually is 5'9", because we would have never have had a chance to get him at 50th overall. Most people felt like he was a first-round pick even at 5'9". Imagine if he was just 6 foot even. It would have been unfair. He would have never made it. We would have never came away with Jayden Daniels, Johnny Newton, and Mike Sanders still. And he's a playmaker. I'm not worried about that height at all. And on top of the fact that, I mean, even if you want to say his relative athletic score is an 8-point-something, even with him at 5'9", he's still one of the quickest and fastest people we drafted out of this entire draft class, which is, again, the most athletic draft class out of the entire NFL. So put some respect on Mike Sanders' name as well. Even though he technically had the least, I'm not even going to say the lowest athleticism. We're going to say the least high, because, again, we had the most athletic draft class. And when you stick out as an outlier with an 8-point-something, you know you're doing something right. Also, NextGen Stats agrees. And with this chart, they tweeted the Commanders' new regime targeted elite athletes throughout the draft, securing a league-high 6 players with an NextGen Stats athleticism score of 80 or higher. Washington's first 7 picks had an average athleticism score of 83, second highest by any team in the NFL draft. So when NextGen Stats, and again, the relative athletic score guy himself in @MathBomb, aka Lee Platt, that should tell you everything you need to know. When they come together and agree on something, you know that we're doing something right, man. The most athletic draft class in the entire NFL. I love the way that sounds. And if you also include the athletic freaks that the Commanders sign as undrafted free agents, Adam Peters is basically just bringing in a bunch of aliens. Like, we brought in floor with our free agency signings, you know, the veteran free agents filling any holes. At least we have guys that are playable at every position. We have weaknesses. I wouldn't necessarily classify anything that we have as holes anywhere on the roster right now. But then you bring in all of the ceiling, all of the elite talent and potential with your draft and some undrafted free agents as well. I'm telling you, rookie minicamp might be a movie, y'all. Like, that might be the most entertaining rookie minicamp in NFL history with all of the freak athletes we have. Like, we gathered up some of the biggest freaks of nature and rarest athletes that are out there, and we're about to just all send them at each other in rookie minicamp. Typically, rookie minicamp isn't necessarily like the most interesting thing of all time. time, but this is the first time I've ever wanted an entire live stream of the Washington Commanders rookie minicamp. Burgundy and gold, Redskins, Washington football team, whatever. This is the first time I've ever just been like, man, I really hope they live stream the entire thing for us, please, because we're just gonna see a bunch of freak athletes exploding everywhere, running quick. Just, it's gonna be absolutely amazing. It's gonna look chaotic. And even though this isn't a foreign concept in Washington, because the previous regime drafted a handful of athletic freaks as well, but point one, they never drafted this many at once. So let's go ahead and point this out. We've never had the most athletic draft class out of the entire NFL, any draft under Ron Rivera. We've drafted athletic freaks, but it's never been to this extent. And then number two, most importantly, like by far the most important point, we've never had the coaches with the proven strong player development track records in their history like this staff does on the previous staff. We've just never had guys at every level. Ken Norton Jr. as a linebacker coach. Come on now. Jason Simmons, Joe Wood Jr., and Dan Quinn, secondary experts, are arguably one of the best secondary coaching staff in the entire NFL when you're talking about a collection of minds. I mean, just up and down the roster, dog. We just never had this. I mean, we have Ryan Kerrigan as a pass rush specialist, not even our defensive lines coach, not even the assistant defensive lines coach, just purely pass rush specialist. I'm sorry for my voice being gone. I'm gonna try to chill out after this video for a minute, you know what I'm saying? But as you can tell, I'm just excited. You may not be able to hear it in my voice because it's halfway gone, but I'm very excited about this draft class. And apparently the main point that I wanted to prove in this video is that I'm not the only one. Everybody else does as well. I don't know. It seems like the majority of the Commanders fan base loves this draft, but when you're on social media, especially like Twitter, it seems like the very select few that don't are just the loudest people. So it feels like everybody doesn't love it. But when you look around and you check the experts, the guys that get paid millions of dollars to do this, when you're talking about on the NFL side of things, coaches, executives, scouts, and NFL GMs and things like that, when you're talking about the guys that all they do year round is watch tape, like guys at CBS, NFL Network, Pro Football Focus, NextGen Stats, all of those guys love our draft. So, hey, man, even if just a couple of fans in the Commanders fan base don't, you know, what is that to us, man, at the end of the day? So make sure y'all celebrate this draft class, of course. At the end of the day, grading draft classes immediately after you get them is very crazy and really just stupid in general, but it's still fun to kind of predict like where this draft class may get us, and the fact that we're setting the foundation to build a future Super Bowl winner and things like that, and the fact that everybody basically seems to love what we did, it still feels good, you know what I'm saying? But again, grading draft classes immediately afterwards, you technically really need to wait like 2 or 3 years, so grading them within a few days after the draft is pretty stupid. But hey, man, it's still fun to do, man. That's why we do it, man. I mean, what else are we gonna do after the draft class? Just completely forget about the draft class and just move on and get back to the boring off season where nothing's going on? We might as well have some fun, man. So again, I love the love from around the NFL. Even if you see Commanders fans hating on our draft class, or even other teams' fan bases, just point them to this video. Basically send them this video link and show them that we killed it. We absolutely killed it. No arguments, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I can't wait to see those guys on the field, especially training camp and preseason. Johnny Newton, Mike Sanderstill, Jayden Daniels, and Ben Sinnott preseason. Come on now, man. Oh my Lord, bro. I'm so excited. I can't wait. Let's have some home field advantage this upcoming season with the hype built behind this draft class and this free agency and really the whole new regime as a whole. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button. I really appreciate y'all. I'm sorry my voice sounds like this. I'm gonna try my best to resist from making another video within the next 2 hours. I really am, but I'm so excited to bring y'all these breakdowns on these undrafted free agents. And then once I get those out the way, I'm ready to dive into these draft picks, starting with Dominique Hampton. I've already watched tape on these guys. I'm ready to give you their weaknesses, their strengths. I have comps for every draft pick as well. I have what their ceiling could be, what their floor could be, how they fit in the team, their current position group, like who's above them on the depth chart. Are they a starter or are they like a developmental project? I have that literally already written out, notes ready, advanced stats, all of that ready to go for every single draft pick. It just literally just got to sit down and do it. But again, with my voice sounding like this, I probably should take a little bit of a break. So I really appreciate y'all dealing with my voice sounding this crazy. I'm probably gonna hate editing this video, having to hear myself sound like this. So again, I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna try to to resist making a video. Right now it's 1:14 p.m. I'm recording this, and I'm about to finish the recording. I'm gonna try to resist and wait until at least 5 p.m. to try to record another video. We'll see. I'll try to avoid talking until then. But again, I really appreciate y'all. Make sure you do not leave this video without leaving a like. Of course, let me know in the comment section not only how you feel about this draft and what you would grade it and what your analysis are of every player and every pick and things like that, and also how you feel about us having the most athletic draft class out of the entire NFL. But also let me know how you feel about how everybody else feels about our draft. Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with any of their points, anything like that? I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all soon. Again, like I promised during the call-in live show yesterday, I'm about to start hitting y'all with more live streams, especially call-in shows. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because I did get the bigger stream deck like I promised. Y'all donated so much. Like I said, when y'all donate, it's going right back into the channel. So I went ahead and got the 32 key stream deck. So I have a lot of surprises for y'all. For you know how I do the different reactions, like I press a button and then it's Carlton dancing with the air horns. Well, we're going from 15 keys, which also includes me muting and unmuting my mic and things like that and transitioning between scenes. Now we're going up to 32. So expect us to basically go from like 8 reactions to like 20 something. Very specific reactions. I can't wait to display them, especially once we get the preseason and I start doing some preseason live streams, and then we go on to the regular season live streams where y'all watch the game with me. Stay tuned. Buckle up, man. One-stop shop for everything Commanders. I'm excited. I'm gonna catch y'all later. Let me just chill out and stop talking for a few hours. I'm out, man.